Welcome back. Welcome back. Horrific attacks have continued this week against the Christian community of Iraq. On Wednesday, Christian neighborhoods in the capital, Baghdad, were rocked by bombing attacks. Last month, more than 50 people were killed in a siege at a Catholic church that had been stormed by Islamist gunmen. As Mass was being celebrated as well, that's when it took place. Iraq has been home to Christians since the 1st century AD. But of the estimated 1 million living there at the start of the US-led invasion in 2003, it's believed, it's said by many, that only 600,000 probably remain today. With me is Nezir Semaan, who is the chaplain to the Iraqi Christian community in London. And are you able to speak to your colleagues and so on in Iraq? They're not cut off from speaking to you on the phone? And
no, absolutely. Every day I'm in contact with my people, with my friends, with my bishops, with my brother priests, and I have everyday news about the community there, either because my family is still there.
Yes.
My family is still in Iraq.
Yes. And what is the mood there at the moment?
You know, you can
among the Christian community.
Yeah, absolutely. You can understand the anger for the massacre, because you were in the church just praying for the peace, glorifying God, and you find yourself under the attack of the terrorist group, and you ask yourself why. And the people outside of the church, and in today, they ask why this happened. I mean, what we done bad for Iraq to happen this to us? So the mood, you can understand it. We are anger, but we still feel of hope that the better thing will go in our way. Now,
obviously, Christians in Iraq are getting two very different pieces of advice in various churches and so on. On the one hand, we must stay. One bishop is saying, we must stay because we must bear witness to our faith in Iraq. We cannot be pushed out. And then there are other bishops and others who say, no, it's crazy to stay in Iraq. We must persuade our people to leave because their lives are in danger, and every day they stay there, they're in more danger. Which would be your advice?
My advice is, if the people, and it's my advice, my church advice, Iraqi bishops, not just one bishop, many Iraqi bishops, they say the same thing. Encourage their faithful to stay there, to bear witness of their faith. We know it's hard, we know it's terrible time, we know it's difficult, we know sometimes a human being cannot stand it, but we are Christian, we are original people of this land, and I think our living now, exactly in this time, it's like giving a victory of the terrorist group. Our staying there is really a victory, not just for the Christian, but for the entire Iraqi society.
And we read various accounts that claim that this attack on the Christian community in Iraq is being led by Al-Qaeda from Mesopotamia. Is that who you blame for spearheading this attack on the church, on the Christian church?
I think everyone innocent until the investigation. The Iraqi government, he promised to do the serious, and we ask now, we renew that the Iraqi government will do the serious investigation. And when the investigation will finish and we see the result, at that point we can say who are these people and why they did. Until that time, I cannot blame anyone, but I blame everyone who keeps silence of this massacre.
And indeed, as the various people, is this a neighborhood thing, and the people attacking a church or attacking Christians are local neighbors attacking other neighbors, or are they people, insurgents brought in?
It can be everyone, really. But we trust our neighbor, our Iraqi neighbor. We trust everyone because with there we share many years of life history, and we remember together, Iraqi, Christian, Muslim, we shed our blood defending that country. So.
And so you still feel at one with your Christian
I think with this moment, especially in this moment, we feel very united as a Christian community and very united as Iraqi people, because the condemnation of this attack, it comes from various Iraqi people, from Muslim, Sunnite, or Shiite, or etc., etc. And we are glad to hear that our brothers Muslims, they condemn this. But it's not enough condemning today in Iraq. Today in Iraq, saying word is not enough. We need truly act, practically act, to prohibit and to provide that. Sorry.
Oh no, act, and I thought you were going to use an action word there, but you used the word prohibit. So you'd like the law changed?
The law will change, and I ask the spiritual leader of Islamic, Shiite or Sunnite, to issue a fatwa. And we know what does it mean, fatwa, in Islamic culture.
Yes, I think I do. Explain it again, though, yes. It's a prohibition.
To prohibit the killing of Christian. And everyone will kill the Christian, has nothing to do with the Islam. I think this is the best way to stay together and to live together, to continue our life together.
And what about the rest of it? We read, maybe because the reporters are based in Baghdad, but we read about what the situation is with Christians in Baghdad. Are these pressures, these attacks and things happening to Christians all over Iraq, or only in Baghdad?
I think so, because in Mosul we have the terrible situation. The Christians are under danger in Baghdad, in other cities. So it's not matter of Baghdad. I think all Iraq and the Christian of all Iraq in this moment, they are under pressure, are under this treatment.
And you think a fatwa would really help, would really work?
Which
if there could be a fatwa?
I think so. I think because if you issue the fatwa, first of all, you are saying to these people, which they consider themselves, they are martyr for Islam, you are not Muslim, you are not martyr. The first thing. The second thing, you are obligate your followers, the Islamic people, to say, don't kill the Christian because this is not part of our religion. And this is a big victory. If the Arabic nation, Islamic nations, they will be able to condemn by act, as I said, and issuing the fatwa. Example, the Mufti of Saudi Arabia, the Mufti of Egypt, the Imam in Iran or in Iraq. If they issue this kind of fatwa, I think this is a big victory for the Middle East, to stay together, to live together, to continue the bright future together.
Well, thank you very much indeed. We used to read about Iraq being such a rich and diverse country with many cultures, many religions, all of that. And today, of course, it seems as though that diversity has been lost at the moment. But is it lost forever, or can that diversity of Iraq come back?
It will. It will come back, and I think will come back brighter and better than yesterday. That's our hope. We are people of hope. We never lost the hope in the better future. And I repeat, we trust every Iraqi person. We trust all Iraqi people, Sunni, Shiite, Kurd, Arabic, Yazidi. We extend our hand of peace. We open our heart, which is full of love, to all Iraqi people.
Thank you very much indeed for being with us today.
You are welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Earlier in the programme, we heard from Douglas Feither, former advisor to George Bush, on how the US needs to talk to and better understand Muslims. Well, that was part of his role anyway. A key question, though, is this. Why is it that some young Muslims, with their whole lives ahead of them, choose extremism, even to becoming suicide bombers? In his new book, Talking to the Enemy, Scott Atran argues an interesting case, that in order to understand terrorists, we need to, surprisingly this, to consider their relationships with their family and friends more than the cause for which they fight. That comes second in his eyes. Is he right? Well, he's here now. Scott, great to have you with us.
Thanks, Dave.
Start with this basic thing here. What are the usual reasons for or motives towards a straightforward person of, I don't know, 18, 20, ending up as a terrorist bomber or whatever?
The biggest predictor? It's who your friends are. Who you happen to meet up with in life, almost by chance. It's stunningly almost a random and contingent phenomena. recruitment, cells, hierarchies, command and control, that's pretty much a bureaucratic mirroring of our own bureaucracies. Or things like wanting virgins in heaven. That's a sexual fantasy of our own society. Young people do it because it's a heroic cause, especially for the underachieving in the world, those left in the driftwood of globalization. It's something thrilling, it's adventurous. You too can cut off the head of Goliath with a paper cutter. And it's not necessary that everyone in a group is caught with the jihadi bug. It's sufficient that one or two of their friends are, and then they go along with it. And we find that overwhelmingly, you find that the people who get caught up with it are friends, whether they raft together or play soccer together or do paintball together or schmooze in a barbershop together. And it's not in mosques, and it's not with religious education, which in fact is a negative predictor. It's who you hang out with, who you talk with.
Is it important what you believe or not?
Yes.
Or overstated, but important but overstated?
Yeah, but it's really, first of all, almost all those guys who join it now are born again into it, very late in life. And it's a pretty flat and superficial message that I hear from the shores of New Guinea to the shores of the Atlantic. You know, you say people think about the importance of ideology and the clash of civilizations. The clash of civilizations is dead wrong. There is a crash of territorial cultures. Globalization has created untold access for masses of humanity, but it's left a lot adrift. And these young people who no longer have control from their parents or from traditions, are flailing around searching for some significance in this world. And they're exposed to these heroic messages, and this is one. And it's especially resonant among large segments of Muslim youth.
And if there's 3 sons or 3 daughters, what is the most important determinant in the fact that one of them may do this, terror bombing or whatever, and the other 2 not? Or do they all end up doing it, getting involved together?
So about most of people who join Al-Qaeda associates do so in the diaspora, outside their countries of origin. About 70% do it through their friends. About 10% do it through their family. And the rest through people they meet after hours in the study groups, mosque study groups or other places. But again, that's really the least important of all the things involved in predicting who will join the jihad. You know, the Gallup poll says that about 7% of the Muslims in the world supported 9/11. That's about 90 million to 100 million people. But of those 100 million people, in all of Europe, less than 2,400 have been arrested. In the United States, less than 100, despite the crazy hysteria about it. So the big question is not the ideology, which hundreds of millions of people may buy into, but why so few? So very few actually opt to violence. And again, the best predictor is who you hang out with. You know, the Madrid bombing, for example. 5 of the 7 guys who blew themselves up when cornered by police all grew up within 200 meters of one another in a small neighborhood in northern Morocco. And they were mostly drug dealers. They had no religious education. Yet they're the guys who blew themselves up, not the ideological guys. Why?
Ideologues.
Right. Why? Because, so economic theory says criminals, petty criminals, become petty criminals for opportunity costs, because it pays. But then why would they sacrifice all their self-interest to blow themselves up? And the reason is, it gave them meaning in life. They could be something other than criminals. They could be somebody. I found in the worst time of the Intifada, back in December 2003, 10 guys from the same neighborhood, from the same soccer team, became suicide attackers. Why? Are they all pathological maniacs? No. They were all members of a tight-knit group of friends who thought they could do something heroic. Al-Qaeda doesn't look for anybody. People go to Al-Qaeda looking for it. If you look at the internet imams who are being accused now of having inspired the failed Christmas Day bomber or the Times Square bomber or Major Hassan, you find that Hassan sends 25 messages to Al-Awlaki. Al-Awlaki sends 2 back. He's supposed to be, and the 2 are anodyne. Be good, my son, follow the way of jihad and God. they're looking for someone. And it's just the fact that bin Laden is out there, that the message is out there, that's important.
What would you do to prevent or reduce the amount of this among the next younger generation? The people who are from between 1 and 10 now, what will you do to stop them following in these footsteps? What would you do?
Well, the current militarization of the reaction is not the way to go. So I was at the White House and someone from Mr. Cheney's staff said, don't these young people understand that they have to take responsibility for themselves or we're going to bomb them in their lairs? I said, what, are you kidding? You're going to bomb London? You're going to bomb Madrid? You've got to appeal to their sense of adventure. You know, people call them nihilists. No, they're moralists. They're supreme moralists. They're willing to sacrifice everything for their friends. They're altruists. You've got to give them heroic opportunities to express something significant in their life. I was in Tetuan again, where these suicide bombers from Madrid came from, and I asked the kids, who's your hero? Number one, Ronaldinho from the Barcelona soccer team, the class team in the world. Number two, the Terminator, but they had no idea he was related to the present governor of California. Number three, bin Laden. When I went back a week after Barack Obama was elected president, I asked the same question in the same neighborhood. Same first and second. Bin Laden had gone to number 4, but number 3 was Barack Obama. Well, what is this showing me? These kids, whose cousins and friends went to be suicide bomber, are torn between yes we can and happiness is martyrdom. And we have no knowledge of how to steer or master this right now other than criminal or military adventures. Can we offer these people hope and bring concrete opportunities to them? And I think that's the way to do it.
And who does that? Who's the people who do it? Do you do it?
No, it's got to be
the Army of the United States do it?
And it's not going to be from...
Does missionaries do it? Who does it?
It does, and it's not going to be from things that we concoct in Washington or in London, which is what we're trying to do in Afghanistan, which is failing miserably. It's got to come from them. You know, the only time I've ever found a suicide... I was with a suicide bombing squad in Sulawesi. This is between Borneo and New Guinea. It happens to be the jihad capital of the world. There are about 40 Lashkars there. And I'm with this squad, the Thawfa Muqatila, and there's a Salafi group there that convinces them this isn't the way to go. The Salafis convince them that this isn't the way to go. There is a better way, a more peaceful way to get other people to listen to the message of Islam, of their message of Islam. So that was a stunning discovery, and I found again and again, the people most successful in turning those who have already committed to violence away are the people closest to them in thought, but nonviolent. It's a little bit like Christian fundamentalists are the best at getting white supremacists to come back in, and we should work much more with such people than with bombs and bullets. I think we'd be a lot more successful.
Scott, thank you very much indeed. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for your book.
Thanks for inviting me.
All the best.
Okay.
And now, the drama of cricket. Pakistan's wicketkeeper, Zulkarnain Haider, his decision to flee to the UK after receiving death threats for refusing to fix matches marks another low in a turbulent year for cricket. Very dramatic, very turbulent. 3 of his former teammates, for instance, are still suspended by the International Cricket Council, the ICC, for alleged spot fixing during their tour of England this summer. Could the Ashes help restore cricket's reputation? It's one of the world's greatest sporting combats between England and Australia, and it begins in just 2 weeks' time, 2 weeks today. Anyway, a little earlier I spoke with Michael Vaughan about both these issues. Michael Vaughan, who won more tests than any other England captain, including the famous Ashes series of 2005. I asked him whether the Ashes can bring a feel-good factor back to cricket, or do these allegations and scandals need sorting out once and for all?
Oh, the scandals need real treatment, and I hope the ICC are doing everything to try and make sure that we don't see that again in the game. But what's very important is the Ashes is so special, and you mentioned 2005, 2009, we won the Ashes as well, and it kind of captures the whole cricketing world. It's the same when India play Australia, and we've just seen a good India versus Australia series, which is great for the game. All we talked about is the cricket on the pitch, no scandals, no match fixing, no suspensions, And that's what this Ashes series needs. It's two real closely contested teams, and what we all want, we want the last Test match to be a real great game where either team could win, and obviously we want England to win that last game to retain the Ashes. And if we do that, we have a fantastic series. Test match cricket will get, you know, a huge amount of promotion, but the game of cricket as a whole is what we're after. We really need some kind of real great sporting cricket moment.
Right, and in terms of investigations and that sort of thing, do you think there should be more investigations in terms of the negative stuff, the scandal stuff, the betting stuff, all of that?
Well, it's very hard to know how much is going on because it's all being and happening behind the scenes. But you know, from all the media stories that I've read and all the quotes that I've read as well from the ICC, they're going to try and do everything they possibly can to iron out any kind of suspicions around the game, because now I'm a commentator and the paying public who go and watch the games, they just want to see a fair contest. They want to make sure they're watching, you know, every professional that's playing. They're trying to get the maximum out of their ability to try and win that game of cricket. They don't want any kind of suspicions over no balls or wides or, you know, dodgy run patterns in the middle of innings. We don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about people smacking it out the ground, taking flying one-handed catches, and really being out there knowing that they're trying to win that game of cricket. And I'm sure the ICC are doing everything they possibly can to try and iron out this situation.
So in terms of this Ashes series, who would you say is the key factor, the key player on either side?
England's Graham Swan.
A great spin bowler.
He's the best in the world as we speak. You know, off spinners in Australia historically haven't had great times, but I think he's got all the right tricks and confidence to be able to overcome that. We only have 4 bowlers in our bowling attack, so he holds the key to that, to make sure that he holds an end. He's very attacking as well. He's also a great character. I think having him in the dressing room, he's very bubbly, very confident, and I think his confidence thrives and gives it to the rest of the players. In Australia's camp, I think Ricky Ponting. I think Ricky Ponting's under pressure, but he's a wonderful player. You know, probably one of the top 10 players that's ever played the game. So he'll need to have a great series. He'll need to really rally his troops. He doesn't have the team that he used to have. He's obviously lost the likes of Vaughan, McGrath, Hayden Gill, Chris Langer. He's got a younger set of players now who have lost more games, so they're going to need man managing. They're going to really need their confidence building. They're going to need the odd arm round the shoulder, because they're not going to be as successful as the last Australian team. So I think Ricky Ponting and Graham Swan could hold the key for either teams. Are
you enjoying cricket, Test cricket and so on, almost as much as when you played it, or not really?
No, I don't think you can ever replace that feeling of, you know, waving your bat to 30,000, knowing you've just scored a Test match 100. I think that's very difficult, captaining a team, and you certainly, I don't think I'm ever going to replace lifting the urn at the Oval like I did in 2005. But I love cricket. I'm very enthusiastic about it. I really enjoy watching the game, and I think that's why, you know, commentary is probably the next best thing to playing. You can sit there and talk, sometimes get it right, sometimes get it wrong, sometimes you have to give a bit of criticism, but that's the position that we're in.
You can watch the Test matches and get paid for it too.
Yeah, so exactly.
It's not a bad life.
And we always have the best seat in the house. It's always behind the bowler's arm. You're just in a nice viewing position. You have cameras all around, so you get all the different angles of play. And you know, it's a great job. I've really enjoyed it. I mean, I've been retired a year or so now, and you know, a lot of people say, "Oh, are you worried about, you know, after cricket?" Well, so far so good. I've enjoyed every minute of it. It gives me a bit more time to get on the golf course as well.
I'm right. And the prediction?
I honestly think I'm just going to keep it very simple. Whoever comes out the first game on top, I think will go on and win the Ashes.
We will watch closely. Great to see you, Michael. Really
Thank you.
Great to have you with us. Bon voyage. Well, that completes our world tour for this week. Do join us again in 7 days' time for another Frost Over the World, when our special guest will be the UK Foreign Minister, William Hague, and much more besides.